The last half of the 16th century in Japan was a period of almost constant warfare. Many of those involved in this fighting were members of a hereditary warrior class called the samurai. Samurai status was a matter of caste rather than occupation. All members, whether male or female, were part of the military class, regardless of whether they had ever picked up a sword. Samurai were not confined to a purely military role, however. Some samurai became scholars of great renown. They were civil and military administrators, clergymen, artists, and connoisseurs. Others were just family members, yet all were expected to become familiar with their marital role. Weapons training was more often than not on the job, so to speak. It was a sink or swim mentality, where warriors fought their first battles at a youthful age, and if they lived, they learned something new for the next time. Most who fought in the campaigns were in their late teens or 20s. Except for the generals and the lords, samurai armies were very young in makeup. Conventional martial training did not follow a common structure throughout Japan. Every clan had its own methodology and philosophy. Many clans had certain individual soldiers serve as group teachers, working with younger, newer troops. Some clans actually took the next step, establishing formal dojo or martial arts schools to provide instruction to their men. Veterans of many campaigns, whose skill had been noted, would serve as instructors. This became their duty, and they lived to perfect their skills. They were more like drill instructors training recruits, rather than modern teachers of martial arts. These sensei were teaching their students how to kill and survive, not how to score points with flair and panache. The philosophies that became a major part of modern martial arts may have been in place, but only nominally. The subject of instruction was tricks and strategies to be used in defeating the enemy, not inner peace and self-control. Unusual forms of martial arts were practiced by various clans included armored wrestling. Grappling with the enemy while in full gear was very different from standard wrestling, and it needed practice. Related techniques included seizing and dismounting a rider while passing him. Even ways to tie up prisoners developed into an art form of sorts, with different schools favoring different knots, and special ways of binding prisoners depending on who they were and what the likelihood of escape was. Practical training was also found in violent ways as well. In one activity, several smaller wild animals were placed in a large corral, and samurai on horseback would chase them down, firing arrows at them. The object of the sport was to kill the animals and expend the least number of arrows. It was excellent training for shooting from a moving platform at a randomly moving target. Another activity involving horses was yabusame, which is still practiced today as part of a Shinto observance. In this sport, mounted archers dressed in medieval hunting garb gallop down a set course and fire 3 arrows at 3 wooden targets, each a foot square, mounted on tall poles. The Soma clan of northeastern Honshu were extremely fond of horses and developed a training program that is still practiced in their region. First, they would hold the armored horse race. In this race, teams would gallop around a course in full armor, with their colorful banners waving behind them. Riding and controlling a horse at speed in full armor is a skill that needs training and constant work. Another activity involves several wild horses being led into a huge pen one at a time, and the armored and mounted warriors have to get the horses to enter a narrow gate, and then chase them up the side of the mountain to the shrine above. The aim is to do this in the shortest amount of time possible, and it not only develops riding skills, it develops tactical awareness. A strong emphasis was also placed on the abstract, or training of the mind. Some clans valued this mental training highly, and so recommended the chess-like games Go and Shogi to train the mind in tactics and strategy. For the lower classes of samurai, it was considered a useless exercise, so they didn't study the games formally. What the clans considered valuable for the training of their men often depended on the background of the clan. Many of the great houses of the 16th century were not aristocratic and highborn, making it clear that they would have different values from those of the older aristocrats. The older clans had appreciation for the arts and encouraged knowledge of them among their retainers. This included such things as playing games, composing poetry, playing musical instruments, and so on. The newly risen clans in general detested such soft and decadent pastimes in favor of strictly martial techniques and exercises. These clan lords often laid down harsh penalties, ranging from demotion or loss of privileges to the extremes of banishment or death, for samurai found to be gambling, attending plays, or similar activities considered wasting their time. However, household rules set by their leaders showed differences in opinion for the activities of their members. Apparent contradictions in these rules can be striking and include such rules for forbidding game playing, going to the theater, or writing poetry, but encouraging all members to learn calligraphy because it's good for the mind. By 1868, the feudal era of Japan came to an end, and the samurai class was abolished a few years later.